Hello, welcome to the Business G Spot podcast. I'm Katrina Garcia with KG Website Designs. And as you know, we have Tim Gillette from Simple Easy Marketing as one of our sponsors, as well as KG Website Designs, growing your business online. So I'm really happy for you guys to be here. Before we start, we have a ton of stuff to go through. But before we start, I know last podcast that we did, we talked about AI, getting a job, and starting your own business. And I know we kind of went through it pretty quickly. So I thought, considering the type of environment today in regards to businesses and so forth and jobs in general, what we're going to go over today is basically how to start your own business. These are just basic things that we're going to go over. And these are things that I used along the way, as well as many others that have used along the way. Keeping in mind that we're going to go over a lot of systems that you can use when you start your business. Some of them are free, some of them have a cost. But I want to put the caveat out there that you don't want to go over budget when you're trying to start your own business. You want to keep it within a budgetary needs so that you're not spending all this money on things that you really don't need. And the one preface I really want to put out there more than anything is during these times, there's a lot of businesses out there selling programs on how to start your own business, how to start a membership site, how to start a course, how to start your own consulting, how to start, and they're everywhere. All I ask before you sign up for anything that in regards to training is that you check it out and see, number one, is it a cost you can afford? Number two, is it everything you need to put in place for that particular piece that they're training on? And three, the biggest thing when you do any training whatsoever is you. And that means your action or inaction. So if you're taking a training class, keep in mind you're taking this training class to help you. So always remember that you're going to be implementing these things and that the only way you're going to be successful is if you take action on yourself and on these things you're learning. So with that said, we're going to get started on how to start a business. Now, keep in mind I put a lot of notes together because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss any of the steps, because starting a business is not for the faint of heart, and I'm not trying to scare you off by any means, but it is not of the faint of heart. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of boot on the sidewalk, so to speak, and getting yourself out there and being uncomfortable in some situations to get out there in front of your audience and in front of your clients. But that's part of starting a business. And I'm also going to say too, and I hear this all the time, I hate sales. Not a salesperson, hate sales. You have to remember that when you're starting your own business, you are selling you. You're selling yourself and you're selling the business that you have in place for that client. And you have to remember that you're always in sales, whether you like it or not, you always are. But keep it simple. And we're going to start. The first thing, of course, is you want to figure out first on what skill sets that you currently have that you can put into a business that you can easily start a business. And some of you may be saying, I have no idea. What do you mean skill sets? Some people may know this, some people may not, but your skill sets are essentially the things that you've already done in your jobs, the tasks that you've done, the products that you've worked with, the software you've worked with, all of those type of things, the people you've worked with, your customers. How did you deal with clients? How did you deal with customer service? All of those are skill sets. Excuse me. So what you want to do is, if you're not sure of that, get a piece of paper out and write it, everything you've done in your past job or whatever the case may be, consulting, write it all down. Write everything down in regards to the skill sets that you have in place. So once you've done that, the other thing you want to look at too is You want to, after you write all that down, now you want to know what your why is. And I know this is something that's not always easy to find out, but there are several whys that you're going to look at. One, of course, is to make money. Now, that's not your main why. And this may be a business that you want to do as a side gig just to get some extra money. So that may be your main motto is just make money. But keeping that in mind, the other one might be where you want to fill a gap in the market. There may, and trust me, there's a lot of gaps in the market that people are not filling as yet. So look around and see what kind of gap. And when I say a gap in the market, what I mean is, for instance, there's a ton of people out there that are doing marketing, or there's a ton of people out there that are doing websites, and there's even AI that's doing websites. So what is it you can fill the gap? Number one thing you can fill is customer service. A lot of these businesses do really well with getting the information and implementing, but they're not real good at customer service. Or they might not be really good in regards to cost, where they're charging way more than what a lot of people can afford. So you want to figure out what those gaps are. And trust me, you can figure those gaps out pretty easily when you're starting to investigate and figure out what business you're trying to pull together and where those gaps are. The other thing you want to do too is you may be thinking that you want to help others, doing more for less or helping them with overwhelm. Whatever the case may be, figure out what your why is. Why are you starting this business? And what are your skill sets? So you're writing those down. The next thing you want to do is, okay, so now you got your skill sets and you know what your why is. So who are your clients? Now you have to come up with, not clients, but now you have to come up with a business name. What are people going to know you by? I mean, what is that business name going to be? And things you want to remember when it comes to putting together a business name, don't always go with your name. Because if you ever want to sell that business down the line, they can't buy you. So remember those things when you're putting a name on your business. And also remember too, you want a name that reflects what it is you're doing. For instance, our name is KG Website Designs. You know exactly what we do. We design websites. We deal with websites. So you want to think of those things and think of the naming so that way it's easy for people to understand what you do. And that's something that write a whole bunch of names down, figure out what that pertains to. Go on AI. It might be able to help you with some options too, with the various different naming conventions that might help you find a name. So those are all things that you want to look at. Also, once you've found that name, now you want to register that name because when you're starting a business, you need a license to run that business. And in order to do that, you're going to have a couple things you want to do. Number one, you're going to go online to your local county clerk's office and you're going to register your name. And first, you want to find out too, and trust me, we're going to provide you with all these resources like we've done before. And so don't worry if I'm going through all these quickly. We have all these resources as well as the website, so it'll be easy for you to find. So go into your local county clerk and find out. They have a search option, and there's also a lookup search option that we're including as well to see if anybody has come up with that business name. Now, if somebody has a business name, you can still do that business name and maybe change it a little, but keep in mind that if they're already in the business sector and you change it a little and they've already been in business for a while, they're probably going to be out there more so than you, and more people are going to find them before they find you. So keep that in mind when you're looking at a business name. You don't want it to be exactly like something out there. Like for instance, Target. You can't come up with a name like Target because Target is Target. Even if you said, okay, Target, etc. Still, most of the business is going to go to Target, not you as Target, etc. That's just an example. So keep that in mind. The next thing, if you're doing, and I highly recommend this, And this is only when you get more funds and you're getting more business and so forth. If you can afford it up front, by all means do it because it's really important, and that is to trademark your name. When I say trademark your name, what I mean is that you want to make sure it's registered under you only because here's a couple things that have happened in the past. Somebody's come up with a business, they've gotten their domain name, they've gotten their name, and so on and so forth, and they've even registered it until somebody came up and trademarked the same name as what you have. And if that's the case, whether you have a domain or not, guess what? You cannot run your business under that name because now they bought the trademark. And that means now you can't, even though you've got the domain, doesn't mean you've got the name. So always remember you want to file for your trademark name. That's something that's really key, and we're going to include that in here as well. So we've talked about your idea and what type of gap you fill in the market. We've talked about what your why is, whether that is to make side hustle and just make some money, fill a gap in the market, helping others do more, whatever the case may be. We talked about that. We talked about finding a business name and the importance of what that is, as well as trademarking it. Now, the next thing, and I know some people are going to argue with me on this, but the next thing you want to do is you want to get a domain name. And people will say, you know what, I don't need a domain name. I'm not going to do a website. I'm just going to do it on social media. Here's the thing, and I've told people about this before. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all of them, they own your list. It's on their server. It's their business. They own your list. And keep this in mind when you're building a business, when you want to sell it down the line and you've worked hard building it and so forth, and then you want to sell it for somebody else down the line, it has to do with your name and your customers. Your list is your gold. That's what they're buying. They're buying your customers. They're buying your list. And if your list is on social media, you have no list. So keep this in mind, and I highly recommend you get a website. And we're going to go into further detail as to why. And I'm not saying that because we build websites and I'm trying to be biased. I'm saying it because it's a sound business decision. So, like I said, you're going to want to get a domain name. And a couple times, sometimes with SEO, it used to be in the past, it's still a little bit, but things have changed a lot when it comes to the algorithm. But needless to say, I always recommend you get a domain name with your name, a domain name that has your name kind of misspelled because most likely people will misspell it. And that way you're found quickly, and a domain name with your personal name on it. So that way, if people looking you up, they'll find you as well. Only need maybe 3. And that helps you with SEO because it points these people to your website because you're just forwarding on. That's for another podcast down the line. But needless to say, that's something to keep in mind. So now that you've got all these things, you've got your name, your why, your business name, you've looked it up, you've possibly gotten your trademark in place, so you're good to go. You've got your domain name. Now you have to think to yourself, okay, how am I going to file my business? Am I going to be a solopreneur? And I'm going to be an S Corp, or am I going to be an LLC? Now, this goes into legalities, and this is something that you want to look up. I would highly recommend that you can go on AI and ask them, and they'll tell you what each one consists of. Usually, you don't necessarily have to be an S Corp and LLC up front, but sometimes it helps because it protects you in the long run, and there's a lot of differences in regards to taxes and so forth. But educate yourself on that and figure out exactly what it is and how you're going to be put across in regards to your business. Now, we've gone through all of these pieces, and the next thing is now you want to get your systems in place. So you've got a domain name, and we're going to go through a couple of systems that you can utilize But the key things you're going to want is you're going to want CRM, which is a client resource management piece, and that's where it's going to hold your list, like we talked about. Your list is your gold. That's going to hold your list. So you're going to want something for that to put all that in place. And we're going to talk about some systems. You're going to want a payment piece in place so that they can pay you. And you're going to want a website piece in place so that they can find you. So we're going to go through all of this, but the first thing I'm going to do is before we go through that, I want you to understand too that before you go and you do the domain and you start all these other pieces, you want to remember too, who is your ideal client? And I know some of you might be thinking, well, I'm just starting my business. I have no clue who my ideal client is. If you think about it, what type of business you're pulling together is based on what your ideal client is going to be. For example, with KG Website Designs, it's common that I could either be working for big businesses, and that means 50 employees or more. I could be working for small businesses where that might mean 12 employees or less. I could be working for strictly entrepreneurs that are very small and only have maybe 5, maybe 10 employees. Do you see what I'm saying? You need to figure that out and what that looks like. And part of that too is you also have to figure out where most of these people are online, whether that be through Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, whatever the case may be. You need to figure out what are they, who are they, how do they digest their information online, who do they go to for these particular pieces. And AI has got all of these options for you to look up. So you just got to do a little homework. But that's something you need to know as well as your name is who is your key client going to be? Okay, so wow, we went through a lot of stuff. So we talked about all making money and so forth. So now let's go into the pieces when it comes to the systems to start your website and so forth. So we're going to go into a couple of systems and I'm going to share my screen here. And these are systems that are very easy to get into. They're very easy to manipulate. They're very easy to set up. It's just a matter of which one you want to use. Are there a lot more out there? Absolutely. But I'm just letting you know that's what it is. Okay, so we're going to go through. I'm going to share my screen here. We'll go through here. Okay. So let me start sharing. There we go. Okay, so as you can see with this screen, there are a couple things up here. The first one I'm going to go through, which is the Wix. Here we go. Hold on, I'm pulling this stuff together here really quickly. Okay, there we go. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the first one, which is Wix, is a very easy one to go in and you can set up your system and you can create websites. They've got website themes, the whole works, and they're very inexpensive. And a lot of times they can start you at a very cheap price to get you started with the website. The other one is Squarespace. Squarespace is more of a system-based one where it can also have a CRM. It has a lot more options than Wix does, but Wix, all of these are trying to be a one-stop shop. So keeping that in mind, these are things you want to look at. And like I said, we're going to include these in the resource that we're going to provide for you. The other one is Weebly. You can even create one for free depending on how big it is. Now, there are other two, and I know you've heard these before, which is WordPress. Keeping this in mind, there's WordPress.com and there's WordPress.org. WordPress.com, it has options where it's all in there and it does the hosting for you and the whole works, and it has plans and pricing for you. WordPress.org is just the platform of WordPress, but you have to find your own hosting. And so that's something you might want to do some homework in as well. But with these, you can set up some very simple websites. And keeping in mind too, I know that with AI, you can set up websites as well. And with each of these, they have AI options that you can just type in and put your content in and so on and so forth. That helps you pull a website together pretty quickly. But keeping in mind that when you're doing AI, it's pulling information from other websites that are out there. So be careful when you're doing the content that it's not content that's copyright material. And when you want to do that, I highly recommend, my favorite is I go through GoPilot because they do the resources of where they found this information as opposed to ChatGPT and the other ones. So now let's go in. And the other thing you're going to want to put together is, like I said, your CRM. So there's a couple CRMs that I'm going to go over, and some of these are free. This is a cool one, which is HubSpot. HubSpot, you can do their free CRM, which is very easy and it's very budget friendly. But they also have what is called the HubSpot Starter, which is pretty inexpensive. And it's kind of like a one-stop shop, like I was telling you before, where it also has, I believe it has where you can set up websites as well with this one. And I believe, I'm not positive, yeah, campaigns, email campaigns, calendar options, and so forth. The other one is Zoho. Zoho is pretty big, has a ton of options for you as well, and the pricing is pretty good. The one-stop shop they have is called their Zoho One for small businesses, and you can see they've got CRM that has all of these pieces in it: booking, calendar, your marketing pieces where your marketing campaigns, social media, commerce. They'll even do sites. They've got a ton of options there. So these two are pretty reasonable when it comes to cost, and it might be something you might want to look at because even with Zoho, it's got a pretty good price of, I think it's like $37 a month to start with. The other one is Odoo or Odoo. And this is another one that has an awful lot of options, as you can see, and it's kind of like a one-stop shop too. Now, keep in mind that with these, that you can still, there are still options out there where you can do one thing and then you can do MailChimp or these other pieces. But nowadays, when there's a one-stop shop, it's more cost efficient for you because you're not paying for this piece and then this piece and then this piece. And now your budgetary needs are getting out of hand because you're paying so much for all of these systems. So keep that in mind when you're doing that, that you want to get things that are set up for those pieces. Now, the other things that you also want to set up too is your payment pieces, because after all, you want to get paid. So that's all part of it. I'm just checking something here just to make sure I'm not missing anything. So I'm just checking on this. And I just think that I think when you get all these pieces in place up front, it's going to help you in the long run and help you be a better business owner. So that way you're going to have these systems in place. Because with any business, you want to have these things in place so that way you can run your business as smoothly as possible. And that's always the key. Okay. So the other thing, like I said, is your payment piece. And we're going to share the screen again. And these are some of the payment pieces that you want to look at. Hold on. it set up. There we go. And there are three options, and there's other options that are out there. The main two is Stripe, because Stripe is very user friendly when it comes to all the other systems that are out there. The other one is authorize.net, and that's pretty user friendly as well. Takes a little bit more to manage, but Stripe is the easiest, of course. Then you've got PayPal and you've got Square. And then this one too, which is, we used to use it for quite some time until we went to a one-stop shop, and that's Dubsado, where you can do your invoicing through this, you can do your payment pieces through this, and so on and so forth. So these are things that you want to think about when you're looking at your systems. The other thing now is you've got your website in place now, and you've got your domain name, and you've got your name in regards to your business, and hopefully you've got your trademark, and you've decided whether you're an S corp or a solopreneur or whatever the case may be. You've got all these things in place, except for now you need to get the word out. So what do you do? How do you do that? So there's a couple things that can help you with your online presence. Of course, is your website. And some people will say a landing page. And keep in mind, a landing page is like a website. It's essentially just a one page that is taking people through a sales process, is pretty much what it is. But it's still a web page, just so you know that. Also, you might want to think about setting yourself up with a Google business piece, because that way, as we know, Google's the biggest one when it's out there in regards to algorithms and so forth, and you get higher up to the list if you're in and you have a Google business set up for your business profile. The other thing too is you want to create your social media profiles. And like I said, you want to make sure you know where your audience is hanging out, whether that be TikTok, Facebook, whatever the case may be. You want to set those up for your own business and doing banners and that type of thing. And like I said, AI is your friend in that respect. So look it up and it'll show you how to do those all step by step. Now, the biggest thing that you're going to do to get the word out is not just do that, but you're going to go to networking events. And when I say networking events, get yourself involved in the Chamber of Commerce and go to the meetings, get yourself introduced, who you are, go to some of their meetings. I know there's a lot of them, and such as there's Team, there's Latip, if they're still out there, there's BNI. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them out there that you can choose from to get yourself acclimated in there. But keep in mind when you're going to these particular networking events that it's the right fit for you, and that they're going to be the right people that are going to help get the word out for you as well as vice versa. And the other things too is virtual meetups and regular meetups. Those are things you want to get out there. So then that way you get the word out, got your business. Now you want to let everybody know what it is you do. And I would highly recommend too that you do yourself a favor, look on AI, what's the best way to network yourself and how to do it. Because they're always talking about your 30-second commercial. And when you're going in to talk to somebody, I recommend it that you look at it as like talking to a friend. It's like talking to your best friend. You're excited about your business. You're excited you got this new business and you're going to be doing this and you're going to be doing that. And when you're going into those meetings, you're simply talking to these people about your business. But keep this in mind. It's not all about you. So you're not going in there and saying, oh, I have this and I have that and this and that, and here's my card. You got to give me a call, blah, 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 blah. That's not what networking is all about. When you're first starting your business and you're doing network, I highly recommend that you listen more than you talk. Pay attention to how other people are networking. Pay attention to who's getting more people talking to them than others and why. Pay attention to what other people out there doing, because you can also find power partners. And we'll go more into depth later on down the road with that as well, because that can be a whole podcast in itself. But pay attention when you're in networking groups and seeing who's doing it well and who's not doing it well. And then kind of emulate some of the things that they're doing putting your own caveat on it, of course. But keep in mind when you're networking and you want to get the word out, it's not all about you. That's something you want to keep in mind. You don't want to already go into a meeting and tell everybody all about you. I know you're excited, but you don't want it to be all about you. And then you walk out the door and they're not going to call you because they're like, holy crap, my God, that girl was just too much, or that guy, wow. So you want to keep that in mind when you're out there networking. Network the right way. So the other thing too is another thing you can do is start offering some deals. If you're a consultant, offer a 20-minute consultation to find out if you're a good fit for them, and then tell them that maybe they can get a certain amount of a discount when they first start with you for the first month or whatever the case may be. I know they say don't discount things, but the other thing you can do is give them free stuff, like put some things out there with some key tips that you know that they need right now, that they can utilize right now in their business. The more you can give out there, the more they're going to be willing to say, wow, this is so cool. If she gave me this much and she has all this other stuff, and if I paid her, imagine what I could do with my business, or imagine how I can move it forward. So keeping those things in mind, that's another way to get yourself out there and noticed. We talked about the tools and so on and so forth. And the biggest thing, of course, when you're starting a business is you want to know what's working, what's not working. And you want to look at that. I want to say you want to look at that like every quarter. Look and note, okay, did this networking event, how much did I get in businesses from this networking event? How much did I get by going to this event? How many people did I meet this month? How many connections did I make this month? How many connections did I make that turned into business? So these are things that you want to keep looking at because you want to see what's working and what's not. So that if you're seeing things that aren't working, you can change them. Keeping in mind that no business is perfect. We all learn from our mistakes. Trust me, been there, done that. All learn from our mistakes, and we all learn what works and what doesn't. And the only way we do that is through experience. The only way we do that is by doing. So all I can say is we have gone through a lot of stuff, and we've covered a lot of stuff. So let's go through, let's do a quick summary. So you're going to start your own business. You got to figure out what that looks like. What is that business? What skill sets you're going to be utilizing? And what is that business name going to be? And are you trademarking it? Are you making sure you're registering it? And that you get a domain name for that, getting a website built. Also, getting your systems in place for CRM, a client resource management piece where you can house all of the information for your clients when you meet with them or future clients, their names, their email address, their phone number, notes on who they are, what they do, where they're at, where do they hang out online. Ask all these questions when you meet them up front. And these are the systems that you want to get in place, setting up the website, doing a CRM, doing a payment piece so that they can pay you easily. Then getting the word out and going out to networking and letting people know what it is that you do and how you can help them. Giving them freebies possibly, or giving them a consultation, 20-minute consultation, whatever the case may be, you want to get the word out. I remember, here's a story, when I first started, I went to a networking event and I was scared shitless because I walked into a room that had over 200 people in it. And I did not know this. I was not prepared for this, but they said, oh, all the people that are brand new come up to the front of the room. So a bunch of us came up to the front of the room and they said, okay, we want you to introduce yourself and tell us what your business is about and how, what you do in just a little brief moment. And I'm thinking, holy crap, holy crap. I just started this. What am I going to say? Oh my God, oh my God. So I get up on the stage and I say, hi, my name's Katrina Garcia and I'm KG Website Designs and I do website designs for people and so on and so forth. And my name is Katrina, just like the hurricane, but I'm a lot nicer. Do you know how many people at that point came up to me and remembered me from that day because of what I said? I didn't realize what a shtick it was. I just said it because at that time, Hurricane Katrina had happened not too long before that. So it just came off the top of my head. But everybody that I went to a meeting from that point forward, oh, you're Katrina. I'm the hurricane. I remember you. So even if you can use like a little shtick or something that gets people to remember you and your name and your business, that helps as well. So, like I said, we went through a ton of stuff. We're going to provide a list of all of the information we covered and even more detail, as well as the links for some of the systems that we talked about. And as always, I hope you found this very helpful and I hope you go forward and start your business. And I hope that you will be very successful at what you do. Just remember when you're starting your own business, don't give up. Don't give up. It takes time and you have to be patient. And you also have to remember that it's all about you and your mindset. So don't give up. And remember, it's you that's going to make the difference in your business. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, we'll catch you up.